It's very, very seldom do you see a true martial arts school um, focusing on self-defense. Then all of a sudden they do this Krav Maga because they're a martial arts school, but for some reason they're bringing in another self-defense form, which makes no sense to me. I have some of the greatest MMA fighters, right? We know that, and I happen to teach UFC fighters, and but I also all of them included all of my students. If they get jumped or their family gets jumped, they know what to do, and that's what a martial artist to me is. And if you're not, you're not a martial artist.
This is Sifu Slim, and I am excited today to bring you folks another interview on the series called The Aging Athlete. Now, when I wrote the book called The Aging Athlete, it was quite a long period of research. I had the blessing to have interviewed some 1,400 high-performance athletes, and in that group, you put in firemen, contractors, dancers, military, high school, college, and pro athletes. So some people I interviewed during their time in high performance and some afterwards and some all the way into their 80s for that research project. And I was delighted that these people spent the time with me to share their wisdom on the journey that they had spent their life or decades on. And when I was done with that book, a wellness person who's from Santa Barbara, California, and is a mother of 2 kids, she said, hey, you've got to touch these people when they're young. You got to talk to the parents, the coaches, and even the kids themselves. So she said, write a book called Raising a Child Athlete and write it in your style. And my style would be to always keep balance and wellness as part of the occasion. So I have the pleasure today to bring John Hackleman into the conversation. And if you wouldn't mind, John, to provide us with a short bio and maybe your background for your own training for yourself as a kid, and then now, and then what you do to help young athletes keep balanced in that incredibly challenging journey to make it to some sort of an elite level if that's where they want to go.
Yeah, well, I started at 10 years old in Honolulu, Hawaii, just because they were picking on kids like me. Skinny white kids. And I started training at 10. And I just happened to, by luck or by God or something, I got put into this martial arts school at 10 that just was unbelievably tough, and it was my home from the time I was 10 up until he passed away in 2001. So I was 31 at the time. So I was with him for 20 some years, and he changed my life. Walter Goodine. His name was Walter Goodine, and he was tough. He wasn't always out of prison. Sometimes he was actually in prison, but he was just such a tough guy and huge influence on me that with my moral compass the way it was, I didn't follow suit in any of his criminal endeavors, but I did pick up a lot of the toughness. And he changed my life. And from, right around 12, it started kicking in, and my confidence changed, and it made me a true martial artist.
What was your schedule, if you wouldn't mind sharing, maybe age 10 and age 20? What was your schedule in your pursuit of your martial art and your excellence, and maybe what were your goals, and did your goals change along the way?
Well, when I started, it was just not to get beat up. I mean, that was it, and that's why I trained. Hawaii's a pretty tough place, and it was a lot tougher back then, and that was my goal. And from there, I went to boxing, and I became a Golden Glove boxer. Then I did kickboxing, and then I did no holds barred fighting, and I became, a sport fighter. And that's what I was until, I don't know, my early 40s, I guess. But so I went from being able to defend myself to sport fighter, and now it's gone, full circle. I'm back to, teaching martial arts for self-defense. But I also happen to have a hobby of training MMA fighters as well. So I kind of do both, but my main passion is everybody stays safe on the street. All kids stay bully proof, and
Yeah.
and everybody get in shape in the meantime.
Yeah, that's Hicks and Gracie, someone that I met down in Ventura surfing, and have followed over the course of my time in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He believes that the self-defense aspect has long been overlooked in the modern Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that they're teaching. So I guess he would agree with what you just shared.
Yeah, yeah. When you go to a jiu-jitsu school, a BJJ school now, it's all about the sport, and most karate schools are all about the either sport or the kata art of it. Um, it's very, very seldom do you see a true martial arts school um, focusing on self-defense. So I think that's a shame. But it is what it is. People get people in the door and they do whatever they can, and then all of a sudden they do this Krav Maga because they're a martial arts school, but for some reason they're bringing in another self-defense form, which makes no sense to me. But I don't know. So that's how I feel about it. I feel martial arts, unless you're teaching a fully incorporated self-defense system, you're a partial art, not a martial art.
Got it. Yeah, I guess the modern human, I call it, I didn't come up with this idea when I was writing my first book about the history of physicality. It's called Sedentary Nation. A friend of mine said, she's a psychologist, and she said, we're in a neurotic society. She said, people live in their heads. And then I took that, and in my book I write, what is the job of the body in the modern era? And the job of the body is basically to carry around that head where we live. And I try to keep, when I'm in my coaching, I try to keep people mind, body, spirit, if they are open to karma, all these things, and doing the right thing, and the list goes on from there. But there's that balance of these three things, so we're not neurotic. And when you go into neurotic, it's hard to make a decision. So you're going, I need more options, and that's an off. You talk to your people that are in the sales business, and people have a hard time making decisions. And so even in the martial arts group, they see, I want options. I want to try this. It's like they go into Latin dancing, they don't stick with salsa. They want to go into cumbia and all these other things. And it's you don't master maybe one thing. You're more you're picking out of different salads along the way to make this grand salad.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm okay with a lot of that. But to me, if you're a martial arts instructor, you're you're teaching your students should be able to defend their lives and the lives of their families. And if they can't, you're not teaching a martial art, you're teaching a partial art. So that's my main thing. And then
Yeah.
if you want to do sports on the side, that's great. Like I have some of the greatest MMA fighters, right? We know that. And I happen to teach UFC fighters, and but I also all of them included, all of my students, if they get jumped or their family gets jumped, they know what to do. And that's what a martial artist to me is. And if you're not a martial artist. Thing.
So how did you connect with Chuck Liddell? Some of my friends from Santa Barbara know him all the way back from grammar school, and I guess he was a smart kid and a good athlete, and
Yeah.
then got into, was it kickboxing originally?
He came to me. We actually got set up into a fight, and so we fought like I don't know years ago in the early '90s. We were both living in San Luis Obispo County, and we got into a fight. It was a sanctioned fight, not a sanctioned fight. It was like a sparring fight.
Mhm.
And I guess he thought I won, so he asked me to train him, and I started training him from then on. That's kind of it in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Would your gym, I mean, from the little I know about your gym, and I've called you before, and you were very busy training. It seems like you have, it's all about the work ethic and doing your stuff, and then go back to your life, and then you coach the next person. It seems like you're very into the actual training, and I'm sure there's socializing that goes on, but that's the vibe I got from you during our last conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not there. I'm not. I mean, I get close with my guys. They're like family, but I don't consider them my friends. I don't want to hang out with them. But it's a very, very family oriented gym, and so we're really family oriented. But like I said, I mean, I wouldn't hang out with my kids, like on go partying and stuff. We do things on occasions, but yeah, it's a family gym for sure.
So I have behind me, I have my gi pants and my belt. I was retired from BJJ for about 5 years. I had a series of injuries all in a row. And my significant other at the time told me, that's it. You're 50, you're not doing too well right now, and your body, you're hunched over and your arm hurts, and good time to pack it in. So I packed it in for 5 years, and then last summer in Germany, I got back into it. Now I just tell people, light, if it's 20%, 40%, whatever, I don't heal like I used to, and I get injured quickly. So I'm blessed that these people have taken my request and honored it. But as far as sanity, this, I tell people, swimming in the ocean in Santa Barbara, wherever I am, and this is a big part of my sanity. So I guess it's keeping me balanced. And I talked to somebody about being grounded. And in my coaching yesterday, I came up with this little metaphor. I said, if people are flighty, and this one person I was coaching was complaining of being all over there, not being focused. I said, well, this came to me when I was talking to you. So you got a firecracker, a fireworks display on the 4th of July, and it goes off the ground, and then it goes up and it explodes, and all that debris comes back to the ground. So I said, are you exploding at all in your life? Are you getting into something where you let it all out, whether it's a concert, a dancing thing, a martial art, whatever it is, a long run or hike, or a swim in the cold ocean? Are you doing anything where you're letting it all go on a continual basis? And they said, no. I said, well, find something in that and do that explosion and see if that helps you become more grounded. And maybe you could share your thoughts on what grounding means to you and what you think of my idea.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor. I I don't do the sport aspect of it or the jujitsu just because to me it's useless for. I mean, it's fun, but there's too much shoulder, knee. There's too many injuries. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say 99% of the injuries at my gym don't come from MMA guys or the Hawaiian Kempo guys, which is all street stuff. They come from the BJJ sport guys. Because we have a BJJ team at our gym, and all the injuries come from there. So it's just not worth it to me to have a shoulder this or a shoulder that. So I train. So I train really hard in the street aspect of it, and I stay away from the sport. But that's my explosion. I push it really, really hard.
How do you account for low injuries in sparring, where there are elbows involved and throws and trips and these types of things? How does that come about in your gym?
Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about two different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they're wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com. And when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes. And your gym?
Everything's drilling. Everything's drilling. We barely spar at all. It's all about drilling now. And I don't really believe much in sparring or hard grappling for that matter, because that's where the injuries happen. And I don't think you need to spar hard to fight hard, because if you look at it, I mean, how many military guys actually use real bullets when they're practicing, you know? So I feel like you can get a full-on workout. And my fighters push really hard in the conditioning part, but I just don't for the sparring. I just don't. We have a 95% win rate on my fight team, so we're doing pretty good. But I just don't believe in hard sparring anymore. And I mean, there's just too many injuries, and I just don't feel like it's necessary anymore.
So Chuck Liddell in the early 2000s and afterwards, he wasn't doing a significant number of rounds sparring before his fights?
Yeah, no, he wasn't actually. And you know, he lost his chin, and that was kind of a big deterrent in his, you know, towards the end of his career, in that he lost his chin, but he wanted to keep fighting like, hey, whatever. He wanted to keep fighting like the old Chuck, and that seemed the combination didn't really work out too well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because he wasn't a boxer or a mover or much of a grappler, even though he was a great grappler, but he chose to stand and bang.
Mm-hmm.
And that really didn't work out well for his you know, in the beginning he had a great chin, so that style was made for him. But towards the end, when he lost his chin, he couldn't be a slugger anymore, but he wouldn't adapt he wouldn't change.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That was the downfall.
Yeah, I had a similar thing with Ken Shamrock. I hung out with Ken about 5 years ago, and I said, Ken, you know, your body's not happy with the way you used to fight. I said, you're a great athlete. I said, why don't you learn the soft art of you know, jiu-jitsu or something else and get into that? And he said, no, that's not my style. So he was basically sharing the same thing that you shared with me about Chuck.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah, he. But what did he do towards the end? Like, you talking about Ken Shamrock?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did his career end? I don't remember.
He fought Kimbo Slice, and he got hit. He got hit after he couldn't finish a rear naked choke. He got hit, and that was it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
And then Kimbo wandered off into the sunset permanently within the next year, I think.
Yeah, then he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
What are your comments about how to keep young people balanced? Because what I found in this book, The Aging Athlete, is that high performance athletes, about 90% of them, stop doing regular physicality starting the first week that they leave high performance. And that's ex-Marines, ex-dancers, ex-high school, college, and pro athletes. So 90% becoming mostly sedentary afterwards. And my study says that it's because they weren't trained in wellness and balance and sustainability, and they were also not wired for it. So I'm kind of wired like Jack LaLanne, where I love fitness, but I'm also wired like a naturopath, that I want everything to work in my digestion, my head, no headaches, my skin, etc. I want everything to work, and my brain permanently. But a lot of people who go for the high performance stuff are wired to give it all no matter what the cost. So I was trying to, with this third book, at least bring the attention to this matter and the awareness, so that the coaches can coach kids about balance and wellness, so that they can have a sustainable life of balance.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I actually train harder now than I did when I was fighting. I push it harder. I push the anaerobic threshold harder. Um, I'm very diet conscious. I meditate. I've been meditating since I was 16. So I'm like that, but a lot of fighters aren't. They don't have a passion for working out. So when they retire, they're just not as into it. I don't think it. I think it's personal. I think it's like some people just don't love to work out, and they're not gonna when they retire. I don't, so guys like Court McGee, Chuck Liddell, he likes to hike and stuff. He still does that kind of stuff. But guys like Court McGee and Glover Teixeira, those guys, those guys are like elite CrossFit type athletes. So they're never going to stop training. I'm never going to stop training. But some fighters, they just don't want to. They just don't love it. It's not their passion. So you can't make a passion someone's passion. You could try to talk some common sense into them. Stay healthy, live longer, look better at the beach. Plus if you don't look good when you don't look good when you take your shirt off, you're gonna have a hard time with your wife at home. So I try to tell the guys that, but it has to come from them.
Yeah, my one thought, based on being high school athlete, was that we weren't trained in what to do on our own after we left our PE classes and our sports classes. And so one of my ideas was, if you start kids off like you're responsible to give book reports when you're 10 years old, and that continues, and then you're responsible for term papers, what if you made kids responsible for writing out a wellness plan based on their own interests and desires, and you work with them over the course of their education on that, and you made that part of the NFL off-season training, and other sports, college sports training.
Yeah, that's an idea, I think. Plus, how about some self-defense training too? So every kid, like your average human spends like by the time they're like 80, they spend probably, if you put it all the time together end to end, they spend like 11 months of their life just brushing their teeth so they don't get gingivitis. But they don't spend any time defending their life, so they don't get deadivitis, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get killed if somebody jumps you and you can't protect yourself. So, but it's not. They don't teach it in school, and they don't care. If you even defend your life in school, if somebody jumps you, you're gonna get in as much trouble as the person that attacked you, because that's where our school system is with their zero tolerance. So, it's a travesty, but it's the way we are. So we as martial artists, we're the protectors, because they're not going to protect us. No one's going to protect us. We have to protect ourselves and them. So, I think that's a great thing, and it should be taught in the schools. But I think the first thing, because you can't be healthy and fit and have a good lifestyle if you're dead. So I always think self-defense should be the first thing and the most important thing that people learn, and everything else comes second. Plus, there's no downside. Like if you train hard and you don't ever get jumped, then that's okay. That's one thing. But then if you don't train and you get jumped, you're dead. And if you do train hard, you always look better at the beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one good thing about training. If you get jumped or not, you always look better at the beach.
What's your website, John, so that people, if they want to visit your website and maybe spend time training with you in California or wherever you're doing a seminar, where can they reach you?
It's john@thepit.tv. I mean, it's the pit.tv, sorry.
The pit.tv.
The pit.tv. Yeah.
Good deal. So you're off to Hawaii. I wish you well with your excursion there and your mom. And if you ever want to tap into some of the stuff that I've talked about here and my research and maybe share some of these things with your crew, I'll be back in Santa Barbara, you know, periodically, and I could visit with you up there. And then also online, I'm available, and I'd love to connect this with some of your people. I also have a background in finance, so if they're not understanding their options with finance and saving money, I'd be happy to help them with that as well.
That's one of my things.
You are also?
Yeah, no, I'm needing that.
Oh, you're needing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to get in touch. Yes, drop me an email and let's talk, connect. But I appreciate the time and I appreciate the podcast.
Fantastic, John. So I'm Sifu Slim at sifuslim.com. We're asking people out there to share their comments, their respectful comments. Humor is fine, disrespect is not. And please like and thumbs up and tell us what else you'd like to hear from us. And thanks, John, on his flight. This is the first interview that I've done on an airplane.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm getting the evil eye right now, so I gotta go. Thank you very much. And
aloha kea kua.
Okay, pit.tv. Thank you.